Hello and welcome to Navigating Your Funding Application. Tips for prospective climate-ready plans and processes. Grant applicants.
This initiative is offered through the Green Municipal Fund, delivered by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. GMF manages approximately $2.4 billion in programs funded by the Government of Canada.
If you are new to grant applications, don't worry. We will walk you through the process and help you avoid common challenges. Our goal is to make the application process smooth and point out common mistakes that often come up during the review stage.
This video complements, but does not replace, the application guide, which should be your primary reference throughout the application process. This video will help you to avoid common pitfalls in your funding application, ensure the eligibility and accuracy of your application and all supporting documents, minimize back and forth with application reviewers.
Let's look at the application process and the documents you'll need.
Here is an overview of the important tools and documents you need for a successful application. The Climate Ready Plans and Processes, or CRPP application form, is the primary document that collects all necessary information from the applicant, including detailed project specifics. The Climate Ready Communities, or CRC, assessment tool is an interactive Excel spreadsheet that will assist you in identifying appropriate activities to pursue on your adaptation planning journey. This tool will help you make informed decisions about the activities in your application form and project workbook. The project workbook is an Excel spreadsheet that facilitates work planning and budgeting. Finally, supporting documents should include a council resolution and a sources of funding letter. Let's talk about eligibility. Some examples of eligible activities include conducting a climate risk assessment, adaptation planning, systems integration, risk registers, and vulnerability assessments. Consult the application guide to learn more about other possible eligible projects.
Some projects and costs are not eligible for funding. Projects with a sole focus on asset management are not eligible for CRPP funding. For example, conducting a natural infrastructure asset inventory without any link to climate adaptation would not qualify. That said, this type of activity can be part of a broader adaptation project, only if it's clearly connected to adaptation planning in your community. Costs related to ongoing or regular business activities are also not eligible. For example, a CRPP grant will not cover costs to inspect and flush stormwater and sewer systems to prevent flooding. A CRPP grant will also not cover the costs associated with renting tools and equipment related to ongoing or other business activities. For example, buying community generators to use during power outages does not qualify for CRPP funding.
Let's consider what to keep in mind when completing your application form.
The first section of the application form asks for details about the lead applicant. An eligible lead applicant can be a municipality or a municipal partner, which includes indigenous communities or not-for-profit organizations that partners with a local government. It's important to use the legal name of the lead applicant. Make sure to enter the name accurately, as this is the name that will appear in the funding agreement if your application is approved. Taking a few extra moments to double-check the legal name at this stage can save a lot of time later.
For municipal partners to be eligible applicants, they must meet the following criteria. Be an organization partnering with a municipality. Add the partner's municipality contact to the application form. Obtain a council resolution from the lead municipality confirming the partnership. A consultant cannot be listed as the lead contact. Only select the lead applicant option if your organization will complete the following. Sign the CRPP grant agreement with FCM. Oversee the project, even if a third party carries out the work, and will cover project costs and submit all required reporting to FCM.
To help your funding application succeed, here are some tips for filling out your application. Make sure your project title is clear, concise, and descriptive. It should include the name of your community. For example, Climate Adaptation Integration in my town, British Columbia. Use the same title consistently across all your documents. Your project description should clearly explain the scope and identify your objectives. It must also describe the community or region where the project will take place. Your project may intend to identify climate risks or address them. If your project will address climate risks, such as flooding, heat waves, or wildfires, be sure to mention them. Also describe the outcomes you expect to achieve through your activities. Use simple, easy-to-understand language so your application is clear to all reviewers. And finally, remember, the application form and project workbook must clearly explain your project for the review team. Clarity is key.
Here are a few tips to help you design successful activities and deliverables. Break down the project into key activities. Use clear, action-oriented wording. Keep activities consistent across the application form and project workbook to make sure your activities match in both documents. Plan a realistic timeline, and remember, your project must be completed within 2 years.
Over the course of the funding term, you will be asked to demonstrate that you are carrying out the activities you set out to do. In the application form, you will need to list specific deliverables for each activity. Deliverables are tangible documents that you will submit as part of your final reporting package to help demonstrate that the activity has been fully completed by the end of the funding term.
Tangible deliverables can include completed climate adaptation plans, community-wide climate risk assessments, meeting minutes, training material, and attendance records, presentations used for climate training or collaboration, and engagement materials, including online questionnaires and posters for events. Intangible deliverables are those that cannot be considered activity deliverables. They can include a project completion report and invoices or agreements from consultants.
All projects may receive a base grant cost share of 60% of eligible costs. For projects that show fair and meaningful engagement with rights holders and equity-deserving groups, a 15% cost share top-up on the grant amount is available. To receive this added grant amount, your project needs to clearly describe the specific actions you will take to include and support equity-deserving groups. Explain in detail how your project will benefit each of these groups you have identified in your community. Remember, meaningful, equitable engagement means doing more than just informing these groups. Your whole project will be reviewed using a lens of reconciliation and anti-racism, equity and inclusion to see how well it meets the criteria. Make sure to list each rights holder and equity-deserving group separately and describe the strategies and level of engagement for each. Use the levels of engagement described in the application guide for reference.
Next, we'll look at some tips for completing the Climate Ready Communities Assessment Tool, or the CRC Assessment Tool.
As part of your application, you will need to complete and submit the Excel-based Climate Ready Communities Assessment Tool. It serves two purposes. First, to conduct a self-assessment that builds awareness on key elements of climate adaptation and provide a snapshot of your current efforts. Second, to offer a roadmap that helps identify actionable steps to advance climate adaptation. Consult the accompanying user guide and tip sheets to help complete your assessment.
As you complete the CRC assessment tool, you may see error messages appear on the right-hand side of some milestones. This will happen if questions in any of the pillar tabs are left unanswered. An error message will also show up on the Snapshot and Roadmap tab if you forget to indicate your progress for a milestone. To avoid this, make sure that you record your progress for each milestone by checking the appropriate boxes. Taking a few extra moments to review for error messages will help make your application process smoother.
Once you have indicated your progress in each of the three pillar tabs of the CRC assessment tool, you will be able to see the completed Snapshot and Roadmap tab. This section provides a summary of your adaptation efforts and brings together the actionable steps you have identified throughout your assessment, all in one place.
Another important supporting document is the project workbook.
Your application must include a project workbook where you detail your work plan and budget. This project workbook is very important because it shows the planning and financial foundation of your project. It's an Excel template that contains a work plan tab where you will list your project activities, the timeline by month and year, and the cost for each activity or task. This should match what you have described in your application form. In the project workbook, list your main project activities, break them down into tasks, and include their costs in the eligible or ineligible columns. Tasks could include consulting fees, staff time, community workshops, printing costs, and more. Adding these costs together will give you the total budget for your project. On the Sources of Funding tab, list all sources of money, any financial contributions from your municipality, and any other grants or funding that would be included. It is essential that the total funding amount is equal to the total project costs. The project workbook will automatically calculate percentages and the Green Municipal Fund's grant amount. Make sure the GMF grant percentage is within allowed limits. Smaller indigenous communities may be eligible for a higher funding share, even up to 100% with certain incentives. However, unless you have official confirmation, assume the base level of 60% or higher based on program guidelines.
Here are a few tips for completing a successful project workbook. Match activity titles. Use the same activity titles in both the project workbook and the application form. Budget each activity. Once you have entered all the activities and costs, check the project workbook to make sure the totals are the same. The total of your funding sources must equal the total cost of your activities. The project workbook will flag any mismatches. Also, make sure your funding sources are exact. For example, if your project workbook shows a $30,000 municipal contribution, that exact amount must appear in your council resolution or confirmation letter. This shows that funding is truly committed. Set up a clear timeline. Include start and end dates in the Work Plan tab, as well as the timing of each activity. Be realistic. Make sure your timeline fits within the allowed 2-year project window. Ensure consistency. Every major activity mentioned in your written application should also appear in the project workbook, and vice versa. If something costs money, it should show up in the budget. If your application indicates you will deliver something, the project workbook should show all the necessary resources allocated to make that happen.
Finally, let's review the supporting documents.
If the lead applicant is a local government, the application must include either a council, band council, board resolution, or documentation confirming project funding sources. These documents should be on official letterhead and submitted as a PDF or scanned copy.
If the lead applicant is a non-municipal entity, the application must include a municipal council resolution confirming the municipality's involvement in the project, a letter of organizational support from the CEO or CFO, articles of incorporation, and supporting documentation. Documentation confirming project funding sources. A sample funding confirmation letter is available in the application guide. Municipal partner applicants should refer to the application guide for the complete list of required documents.
Here is a quick summary of some of the most important tips for a successful application.
We want to see your funding application succeed. Here are a few tips for success. Check your project's eligibility. Make sure your project meets all eligibility criteria. List deliverables clearly. They should be tangible documents that you will send with your final reporting to confirm each activity was completed. Engage inclusively. Confirm your engagement strategy qualifies for the 15% cost share top-up. Complete the CRC assessment tool. It should be filled out correctly with no error messages. Align activities in the application form and project workbook so that they match. Match your project workbook and funding sources. Totals must match, add up, and make sense. Keep your timeline in mind. Your project must be completed within 2 years. Have your council resolution or sources of funding ready. It must state the exact municipal contribution.
Check out our GMF resources to find further information to support your adaptation journey.
Connect with us if you have any questions or further assistance. Visit our website at greenmunicipalfund.ca. Consult our newsletter at greenmunicipalfund.ca/connect. Connect with us directly by email at gmfinfo@fcm.ca or call us at 1-877-417-0550.